everyone, it's Carly. Today I want to share with you one of my current favorite go-to card designs. No surprise, it's a shaker. Today I'm using the MFT Fintastic front set, which is so cute. I'm going to stamp, die cut, and then color. And I'm die cutting before I color. That way if I mess up my die cutting in any way, I don't ruin something I spent hours coloring, which literally it takes me hours, and that's why I'm going to do it off camera. But I wanted to let you know, when you open your die cuts, save this piece of plastic because we're going to use that crafty trash later for our project. Okay, so I've got a mermaid and two fishies colored, and that really did take me forever, you guys. You did not have time to watch that. So I skipped it, and we're going to move on to the background of our shaker card. So I've got some colors of Distress Oxide ink here that I'm going to ink blend onto a heavyweight panel. Since there's going to be glitter and sequins over this, the blending doesn't need to be perfect. I just want to make sure to get a few colors and kind of a little ombre water type look. And I'm not going all the way to the top because that part's not going to show. So why bother? Here you can see that panel all finished, and then I'm going to grab another panel of heavyweight white cardstock, and I'm going to grab the MFT Sand and Surf dies. I'm going to die cut part of this panel so that I have a little topper that goes on top of my shaker pocket. And it's great to have my mermaid handy because then I can kind of help check my spacing and make sure that I have enough room for my mermaid that she won't be on top of that white panel. She'll be in the shaker pocket, if that makes sense. So not in the white part in the water. I'm just going to secure that with some low-tech tape and send it through my die cut machine. Okay, so I've got that little topper bit. I'm going to set it aside for a minute and go back to my shaker pocket. So I'm going to grab that crafty trash from before, and I'm going to trim it down. So I need to cut off the top and the bottom flaps so that it will be just a piece of plastic. And I'm using my paper trimmer because it was handy, but a pair of scissors might have been easier because the cuts don't need to be perfectly straight. You're going to fold over the edges. You're not going to see those anyway. And then I find it's easiest just to tear these at the sides. Does that make sense? So I've got the top and the bottom cut off, and that's kind of like a sleeve. And then I just tear at the sides, and I've got two pieces. So I can make two shaker pockets with this. Next, I'm going to add some strong double-sided tape to the back of my ink blended panel. I'm going to do it along the bottom and the sides, and we're going to use that tape to secure the plastic panel we just made. Now, before we pull the liner paper off the tape and secure the plastic to it, I want to trim the corners a little bit so that everything will fold in nicer. So I'm just going to hold them together pretty securely so that I can just trim the corners right there with a pair of scissors. It doesn't have to be perfect, but cutting off that extra plastic will make it fold and lay even nicer when it's all done. I'm going to remove the liner paper from the tape and fold that plastic up onto it to secure it. So that will make the bottom, then I'll repeat that on the sides and leave the top open, and that makes our little shaker pocket. Now, depending on the weight of the plastic you are using to make this pocket, you might want to grab a bone folder and just burnish it so you have a really crisp fold with the plastic. This is nice and lightweight, so I don't really need to do that. But then I can just squeeze it open there and add in my bits. So I'm adding some sequins and some chunky glitter. I really love this combo, and I think the addition of the chunky glitter is so fun because you get all of the effect of having glitter paper in there without having to use glitter paste or without having to use glitter paper. So it kind of gives you a little more versatility, and you still get that great sparkle. Now to close this, I'm just going to use a little bit more double-sided tape. I'm going to put it across the top there. But when I remove the liner paper and go to fold it over, I'm going to fold in the corners like it's wrapping paper. I could have trimmed the corners the same way I did on the bottom. I just wasn't thinking and I didn't do it. And so this method works just as well. Now, if you have thicker plastic, you probably would want to trim the corners and not just do the fold over like a gift, because that will add a lot of bulk if you have thick plastic. But if you've got thin plastic, you can get away with this. And then something else to note is that how tight you fold it in at the top will affect the shake of your card. So if you fold it in really tight, you're going to get a little bit less shake there. But that's okay. Either way, you've got a really cute, shaky, glittery pocket that's nice and flat for mailing. Okay, so once I stop playing with my shaker pocket, I can set it aside and go back to the little panel that's going to go on top. So I'm going to pop it in my Missy with a sentiment stamp, but I want to test that stamp first. So I'm going to put a piece of acetate over the top of it. Then I'm going to ink up my stamp and stamp onto that acetate. And that lets me test the position and all that kind of stuff, the placement, and make sure it's straight, make sure I like where it is. If I don't like it, like I don't really love this, it gives me a chance to fix it. So I can just wipe off the acetate, clean off the stamp, move it, test it again. And then once I'm finally happy with it, I can move that acetate out of the way and ink up my stamp and stamp it again, this time onto my actual panel. So after I'm happy with that little panel and I've got it all stamped, I need to put it onto my shaker pocket. So I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue on the back of the panel to adhere it to the shaker pocket. The liquid glue gives me a little more wiggle room to make sure I've got everything lined up. I can kind of push it around and move it till it's in the right spot. And then after I've got it on there and I'm happy, I'm going to set that aside and put a few acrylic blocks on top just to make sure it stays really good and stuck down. After letting it sit for just a few minutes, I'm going to move those blocks out of the way, and then I want to add the rest of my pieces. So I've got my sweet little mermaid and her little fishy friends, and I'm going to use the same liquid glue to adhere those onto the top of the shaker pocket. Once I've got those pieces glued on, I will pop them back under the acrylic block for a few minutes while I get a folded card base ready to go. So now I've got my decorated shaker pocket panel. It has my cute mermaid on it and all of that good stuff. And now I need to adhere it to a folded card. So I'm going to grab liquid glue one more time and coat the back of my shaker pocket panel really well. And then I'm going to stick it onto that folded card. I'm going to pop the whole card under an acrylic block or two for another minute. And then I'm going to add a little bit of faux splatter. I just can't resist. I grabbed a black pen and added a few little dots here and there. Here's the finished card, and here are my colors again in case you need them for your coloring. Thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate you being here. I hope you are inspired to craft, and I hope you have time to do it. Thanks so much and hope to see you here again soon, guys. Happy crafting!